Help was called from a weak world. Humans arrived, and hope was lost. The planet Arendor shook under the constant attacks of the Xiphons. Its skies burned red with explosions, and the ground trembled as alien warships fired their weapons without mercy. Cities that had stood for centuries crumbled into rubble, and smoke rose high into the clouds. People ran through the streets, screaming and crying, while the few soldiers left tried desperately to hold the line. The air was thick with fear and hopelessness. Liam Harper stood on a ruined rooftop, looking out at the chaos below. His uniform was torn and burned in places, and dust covered his face. He could see the Xiphon ships moving like a dark cloud across the horizon. He clenched his fists, his heart heavy. He had trained for war, but this was different. This was not a fair fight. His people did not have the power to stop the invaders. Beside him, Maya Wells checked her small scanner, trying to find any sign of the planet's defense systems still working. The machines were old and failing. "We can't hold them much longer," she said quietly, her voice tight with worry. "The shields are almost gone, and the weapons are barely firing." Liam nodded. "We need help. We can't do this alone." He looked at the horizon again, hoping somehow someone would come. The Xiphons were clever and cruel. They showed no mercy, and each attack seemed more precise than the last. Arendor's fleets had been destroyed weeks ago, and the cities were falling one by one. Ruth Dane, the leader of Arendor, stood on the main platform of the government building that had survived the attack. She was old, but strong in spirit. Her face was lined with worry, but she held herself with dignity. She watched her people running, hiding and dying, and her heart ached. She had called for help across the galaxy, sending a message to anyone who would listen. Her voice, calm but determined, had spoken into the void. "Arendor needs aid. We cannot survive alone." For days, there had been no answer. The galaxy seemed far away, and Arendor seemed forgotten. People whispered that no one would come, that the universe had no care for their small, weak world. Yet Ruth refused to give up. She believed that someone would hear their call, that someone would come to save them. In the meantime, Liam and Maya moved through the streets, helping civilians where they could. They carried the injured, gave directions to shelters, and tried to keep panic from spreading. The streets were littered with debris, with broken vehicles and fallen buildings blocking paths. Fires burned in many places, and the smoke made it hard to breathe. Children clung to their parents, crying, while families searched desperately for one another. In the distance, the sound of an explosion shook the air, and Liam ducked instinctively. A small group of Xiphon drones had entered the street, firing indiscriminately. Liam raised his weapon and fired, taking them down one by one, while Maya used her knowledge of old security systems to trap the drones in a collapsed building. Even with every ounce of effort, the enemy seemed endless. "They just keep coming," Maya said, her hand shaking slightly as she adjusted her scanner. "It's like they know everything we do before we do it." Liam put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We have to keep trying. We have no choice. Someone will hear us." They have to. Far above, the Xiphon warships hovered like dark predators, scanning the planet for any signs of resistance. Their weapons glowed with a deadly light, and their sensors picked up every movement on the surface. Arendor's defenses were weak, scattered, and failing. The Xiphons did not just want to conquer. They wanted to destroy. They wanted to break the spirit of the planet completely. Ruth Dane looked at the sky through the smoke. She knew that the people were counting on her to make decisions that would save lives. She called her aides to her side and gave orders for the last evacuations. "Take the children first," she said. "Take the elderly. Move them to the bunkers under the city. Everyone else must prepare to fight or hide. We cannot fail." "Not yet." Her aides nodded and ran off to carry out her commands. The streets were chaotic, but slowly. Families began to move toward the bunkers, guided by soldiers and volunteers. Liam and Maya helped direct the people, moving with them through alleyways and tunnels, avoiding the Xiphon patrols where they could. In a quiet moment, Liam paused beside a collapsed building. Inside, he found a small family trapped under rubble. A mother, her young son, and an elderly man. Liam's heart sank, but he worked quickly to free them. Maya helped, and together they managed to pull the family out just before a stray blast hit the building. The mother hugged her child tightly and whispered thanks, tears running down her face. "It's not much," Liam said quietly, almost to himself. "But it's something." Maya nodded. "Every life counts. Every life matters. Even if we can't stop them all, we can save some." As the day went on, the situation grew worse. The Xiphons attacked with greater force, breaking through walls and barriers that had seemed strong. Explosions shook the streets, and the cries of the wounded filled the air. It felt as if hope itself was dying, slipping away like sand through fingers. Then, a faint signal appeared on Maya's scanner. She looked at it with wide eyes. "Liam." "Someone is answering our call," she said, disbelief in her voice. Liam leaned over to look at the scanner. The signal was strange, almost overwhelming. It was strong, steady, and unlike anything Arendor had seen. The symbol of a fleet appeared on the screen, moving closer to their planet. "Humans," Liam whispered. "They're coming." Ruth Dane heard the news and her hands trembled. "Humans?" she said softly. They will help us?" Maya shook her head. "I don't know. But they are coming, and they are powerful. We can't even guess what they will do. All we can do is hope they are on our side." As the sun set over the burning horizon, the people of Arendor looked up at the stars. Small points of light appeared, moving steadily toward the planet. The humans had arrived. Their ships were massive, shining with strange technology and weapons far beyond anything the Arendorians had ever imagined. The citizens cheered, crying tears of relief and hope. They thought their salvation had arrived. Soldiers and civilians alike stopped their work and stared at the ships in wonder. The Xiphons noticed the fleet too, and for the first time some of their ships hesitated. Liam and Maya stood together, watching the human fleet move closer. "It's more than we ever dreamed," Liam said quietly. Maya nodded. "It is, but remember, we don't know them. We don't know if they are saviors or something else." The human ships entered the atmosphere, massive shadows stretching across cities. They were silent at first, almost too quiet. Then, without warning, weapons fired from the ships, targeting Xiphon vessels with precision and force. The sky lit up with explosions, and the ground shook beneath the impact. The Xiphons did not have time to react. Their ships were destroyed in moments. The people of Arendor cheered loudly, thinking the humans had saved them. Liam felt relief, but also a growing unease. The humans' weapons were powerful, beyond anything he had seen. The attacks were swift, efficient, and merciless. He could see the Xiphons falling, but the blasts were so strong that nearby buildings and streets were also destroyed. Maya put a hand on Liam's arm. "We should be careful," she said. "They are saving us, but at what cost?" Even as the humans continued their assault, the Xiphons were defeated. Their warships exploded, leaving no trace of the attackers in orbit. Silence fell over the planet. The human ships hovered above, scanning the surface. They had won the battle. The Xiphons were gone. But as the dust settled, Liam looked around at the destruction. Entire districts were reduced to rubble. Fire still burned, and many of the survivors were injured or trapped. The humans had saved the planet from the Xiphons, but the cost was immense. The people who had hoped for salvation now felt fear and awe at the power that had just passed over them. Ruth Dane walked among the survivors, trying to calm them. She looked up at the human ship still hovering in the sky. "We are safe," she told them softly. "But we must learn from this. We must understand what just happened." Liam and Maya exchanged a look. They knew this was only the beginning. The humans had arrived, and they had defeated the Xiphons. But the future of Arendor and its people was now uncertain. Hope had arrived with the humans, but so had something else. Something stronger, harsher, and more powerful than anything they had faced before. And so, The people of Arendor waited, unsure of what the humans would do next, knowing that their lives, their cities, and their world had changed forever. The human ships moved above Arendor like giants in the sky. Their metal gleamed under the light of the burning planet, and their engines hummed with quiet power. People stared up in awe, their mouths open, unable to believe the size and strength of these new visitors. Children clung to their parents, soldiers paused in the streets, and even the Xiphon's dead ships floated in orbit like small reminders of the battle that had just ended. Captain Alex Monroe stood on the bridge of the largest human ship. His uniform was crisp and black, his posture straight and disciplined. He looked down at the planet below, his face calm and unreadable. He had led fleets across many systems, and this world, weak and fragile, was not the first he had saved. Yet something about Arendor caught his attention. Not the people, but the opportunity. Sergeant Nina Clark moved beside him, her eyes scanning the instruments and the screens that showed every corner of the planet. "They're still trying to gather survivors," she said quietly. "They think we're here to protect them." Monroe did not answer at first. He watched as small figures moved through the streets, waving and shouting in relief. "Let them think that for now," he said finally. "They need hope more than truth." On the ground, Liam Harper and Maya Wells led groups of survivors to safer areas. They were still shaken by the sudden and overwhelming power of the humans. The Xiphons were gone, but the humans were not like any ally they had imagined. Their weapons were clean and sharp, precise and terrifying. "They're too strong," Liam whispered to Maya. "I've never seen anything like this. We could not have won without them, but—" He trailed off, looking at the smoking ruins around them. "Look at this. They saved us, but the cost." Maya nodded, her eyes scanning the human fleet. "Yes. Their weapons destroyed much more than the Xiphons. People died even in safe areas." "They don't fight like we do. They fight like the whole galaxy is theirs." Ruth Dane came forward, her hands trembling slightly as she addressed the humans from a safe distance. "Captain Monroe, thank you for saving our people. We are grateful. But may we know why you have come?" Monroe's expression did not change. "We are here because your planet is near the edge of human interest. The Xiphons were a threat, not just to you, but to the region. We removed that threat. That is all." Ruth's hands fell to her sides. "All?" she asked quietly. "What about the people who suffered? The city's destroyed. Collateral damage is unavoidable," Monroe said simply. "Your planet survives. That is the purpose." "That is all you need!" The words hit the Arendorians like ice. Liam's fists clenched. Maya's mouth opened and closed, but no words came. They had called for help, imagining saviors, not invaders of such terrifying strength. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Owen Blake moved among the smaller ships, observing the people of Arendor. He saw children staring in wonder, adults bowing in gratitude, and soldiers unsure how to act.
"They think we are heroes," he said to Nina.
"It's almost funny." "Funny," Nina raised an eyebrow. "Some of them have lost their families. Their cities are gone. Do you really think they find this funny?" Blake smiled faintly. "Not funny in the usual way, but their hope, it's weak. We give them hope, but it's not our goal to save them in the way they think." On the streets below, Liam led a group past the ruins of a marketplace. Smoke rose from collapsed buildings, and small fires still burned. He helped an old man who had fallen over a pile of rubble.
"Come on, sir," Liam said, supporting him.
"We'll get you to the bunker." Maya scanned the area and noticed small groups of Xiphon survivors trying to hide. "We can't let them live," she said quietly, thinking of the humans' brutal attack from above. "They'll come back." Liam hesitated. "We can't fight like that." "Not yet. We barely survived. Humans don't care about small lives. They fight to finish the job." High above, Monroe gave orders. "Deploy patrols to key zones. Secure all high-value areas. No interference from local forces." His voice was calm, final, leaving no room for argument. The human ships began moving with purpose. Drones descended, scanning buildings, streets, and bunkers. The humans did not communicate much with the people of Erendor. They acted according to their own plan, precise and unstoppable. It was not cruelty exactly, it was efficiency. Everything in their path was measured for value and threat. Liam and Maya tried to guide civilians away from the patrols, but many stopped to watch. Some cheered, thinking their saviors were kind and heroic. Others, seeing the destruction left behind, began to question, "Are they really here to help us?" One young woman asked Maya as she carried a small child. Maya shook her head. "I don't know. Maybe. But I don't think they see us as people. Maybe just as part of a bigger picture." Ruth Dane tried to speak with Monroe again. She approached the landing area where his ship had settled, flanked by soldiers. "Captain Monroe, please. Can you spare some help for the people still in the cities? They need food, water, shelter."
Monroe's eyes scanned her calmly. "Your people are resilient. They can survive."
"They will survive. Humans do not intervene beyond what is necessary. That is all." Ruth's lips pressed together. She had hoped for compassion, guidance, maybe even protection. But the humans had none of the softness she expected. Their power was absolute, and their will unyielding. Meanwhile, Liam and Maya worked to calm frightened citizens. They guided families to bunkers, cleared rubble where possible, and tried to prevent panic. Even as they did, they saw drones moving, sensors scanning, and humans acting in silence. It was not evil, it was indifferent, and that made it all the more frightening. In one neighborhood, Liam came across a group of children hiding in a collapsed school. Their teacher had been injured in the attack and lay nearby unconscious. Liam lifted her carefully while Maya guided the children. They moved quickly, but a human drone hovered nearby, scanning the area. Its sensors locked onto them, and a small warning light blinked. "Move!" Liam shouted, pushing the children forward. The drone followed but did not fire. It recorded. That was enough to make Liam shiver. Humans did not just act. They watched, measured, and decided. Every step mattered to them. Nina Clark, monitoring from above, saw the scene. She made a note in her console, her expression unreadable. The humans did not need to intervene further. Their goal was already achieved. The Xiphons were gone, and any remaining threats were insignificant. As night fell, the planet looked strange under the glow of the human ships. Fire still burned in some districts, but the humans' presence illuminated the dark sky. People slept in bunkers, exhausted, grateful, but uneasy. They had been saved, yes, but at what cost? Liam and Maya sat together on a damaged rooftop, looking at the glowing ships above. "We thought they would be like us," Liam said quietly. "Thought they would care. But they only care about their own rules." Maya nodded, her hands folded in her lap. "They are not like anyone we've known. We asked for help, and they came. But we cannot forget what we saw. They fight differently, think differently. They are humans, yes, but not as we imagined." In the distance, Monroe gave his final orders for the night. Patrols would continue, drones would monitor, and no unnecessary interaction with the local population would occur. Humans were in control, not Erendor. The people could live or die, but only within the parameters the humans allowed. The survivors tried to sleep, though many could not. The memory of the Xiphons, the explosions, and the humans' overwhelming power weighed heavily on them. Liam and Maya stayed awake, watching over the people, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Above all, a silent truth hung in the air. Hope had arrived on Erendor with the humans. But it was a fragile, dangerous thing. It could not be trusted. Humans had come, yes, but whether they were friends, saviors, or something else entirely remained a question that no one dared to answer. And so, the people of Erendor slept uneasily, knowing that their planet had survived, but their world, as they had known it, was gone. Humans had arrived and hope had come, but it had a weight heavier than fear, a reminder that power was not always kind, and that even salvation could be frightening. The morning came, pale and gray, over the broken cities of Erendor. Smoke still rose from buildings that had burned during the human attack on the Xiphons. The streets were quiet, but the silence felt heavy, filled with fear and uncertainty. People emerged from bunkers slowly, eyes wide, hands trembling. They had survived the Xiphons, yes, but the humans were still here. Their ships hovered above, enormous and shining, and their drones patrolled the streets. Every movement of the Arendorians was observed. Liam Harper moved through the streets with Maya Wells, helping those who had been trapped or injured. He could see the destruction clearly now. Entire blocks had been flattened. People who had survived Xiphon attacks were crushed by the power of the humans' weapons. The city that had once been bustling and full of life now looked like a graveyard. Liam's stomach churned as he lifted a piece of rubble off a small boy, the child crying in fear. They didn't mean to, Liam muttered, helping the boy to his feet. But Maya shook her head. They did not care. That is different from intention, she said softly. They fought with no concern for us. They only wanted to end the Xiphons. Everything else is secondary. Liam clenched his fists. He had thought humans were heroes. They had saved Arendor from annihilation, yes, but they had done it in a way that had left almost as much death and destruction behind. He wondered how Ruth Dane, the leader of Arendor, felt. He knew she had been trying to see the humans as saviors, but the truth was growing clearer with each passing hour. Ruth Dane walked through the streets, attempting to calm the people. She spoke gently, trying to keep fear from taking over. "You are alive," she told them. "We survived. That is what matters." But even she felt the cold weight of the humans' presence. They were not heroes who would protect the weak. They were forces of power that acted according to their own rules. And Arendor was only a small part of those rules. In the skies above, human ships moved silently. Captain Alex Monroe gave orders for further patrols. "Secure the zones that show activity," he said. "Record everything. Allow no interference from local forces. They are not part of this operation." Sergeant Nina Clark observed the streets with cold efficiency. "They do not understand what has been done," she said. "They think we saved them, but they are weak. They do not see that their survival is fragile, dependent entirely on us." Lieutenant Owen Blake moved over the city in a small scout ship. He could see the Arendorians moving about, still trying to rebuild what they had lost. "They believe in hope," he said quietly. "It is almost funny to watch." Nina shook her head. "Hope will die fast when they realize humans are not protectors, only conquerors in their own way. Survival is a choice we allow, not a gift we give." On the ground, Liam and Maya tried to organize small groups of survivors. They moved people into temporary shelters and set up basic supplies. They could not rely on the humans. The humans had already made that clear. Any attempt to ask for help would be ignored. The humans had defeated the Xiphons, but the cities of Arendor were left in ruins.
"Why didn't they care?" a young woman asked, clutching a small child. Her eyes were wide with fear.
"We called for help. We needed them." "And now?" Her voice broke. "They saved the planet," Liam said carefully. "But yes, they did not care for the people. That is how they are. We must survive on our own now."
Maya nodded. "We cannot expect kindness from them. Only power."
"Only what they think is necessary." Liam felt a heavy weight in his chest. The humans had come as saviors, but their saviors were terrifying, unstoppable, and merciless. It was not evil. It was simply indifference to anything weaker than themselves. The Xiphons had been destroyed, yes, but the people of Arendor were left to pick up the pieces of their world, with nothing but their own courage to guide them. Meanwhile, Captain Monroe continued to survey the planet from his ship. "The Xiphon threat is eliminated," he said. "There is no reason for further action beyond observation." "Allow them to recover as they can." Sergeant Clark nodded. "They will rebuild slowly. Their world is weak, but they have seen our power. They will remember it. That may be enough." Blake frowned. "Do you think they will resent us?" "Resentment does not matter," Clark said. "We do not act for approval. They will learn the truth in time." Below, Liam and Maya led survivors to an area that had escaped the worst of the destruction. They found shelter in the remains of a city hall, the building cracked and scarred but standing. People gathered inside exhausted, scared and uncertain. Mothers held their children close. Fathers tried to comfort them. Everyone knew that life had changed forever. Ruth Dane arrived, her face pale but determined. "We must focus on what we can do," she said to the gathered people. "The humans fought the Xiphons. That is done. Now we survive. That is our duty." Liam spoke quietly to Maya. "Survive, yes. But what about tomorrow and the next day? The humans are still here. They are watching. We have no power compared to them." Maya's eyes were steady. "Then we do what we must. We cannot fight them, but we can prepare ourselves. We must be ready for the future, even if it is uncertain." The people worked through the day, cleaning rubble, helping the injured, and trying to restore some order. The humans observed from above, silent and distant. They did not intervene. They did not speak. They only watched. And their presence reminded the people of Arindor that survival was not guaranteed, even with the Xiphons gone. At night, the human ship sent down small patrols and drones to record activity. Liam and Maya moved carefully, ensuring that the people did not attract unnecessary attention. The humans were not cruel exactly. They were precise, but their precision left no room for mistakes. Any misstep could be recorded, and that recording could have consequences. In one quiet moment, Liam helped a young boy who had been separated from his parents. The boy clung to him, shaking.
Are they going to take us away?
The boy asked. Liam shook his head. No. They are not here to take us. But we must be careful. They are not like anyone we have known. They are humans, yes, but not the humans we hoped for. Maya knelt beside them. We must learn from what they have done. Their power is absolute. If we survive, it will be because we understand it, not because we can stop it. Ruth Dane walked among the survivors, comforting them as best she could. She spoke words of hope, even if she herself was uncertain. She knew the humans had saved the planet, but she also knew that the cost had been high. Many lives were lost, many homes destroyed. The people were grateful, yes, but fear lingered. In the skies, Monroe continued to issue orders. Maintain position, observe. Record. Do not interfere. That is all. Clark watched a group of children playing in the rubble, their laughter cautious and nervous. They think we are saviors, she said quietly. They do not yet understand what it means to face humanity. Blake frowned. Do you think they will turn against us? Clark smiled faintly. Turn against us? They cannot. Not yet. But they will learn the cost of being small in a galaxy of power. As the night deepened, Liam and Maya stood on a rooftop overlooking the city. Fires burned in the distance, and the glow of human ships lit the sky. The people of Arindor slept in bunkers or in small safe areas, exhausted but alive. They had survived the Xiphons, yes, but they had also survived the humans' arrival, and that survival felt different, more fragile, more uncertain. Liam sighed. We are alive, he said quietly, but it feels wrong. We thought we were saved. But I don't know if we were. Maya looked at him, her expression serious. Being saved is not always what it seems. They fought for their own reasons. We live because they chose to let us. That is the truth. We must remember it. Ruth Dane stood nearby, gazing at the ships. We have survived the worst of the Xiphons, she said softly. But we must survive the aftermath as well. That is the true test. The human ships continued to hover above, silent and imposing. Their presence was a reminder that power could not be questioned, that survival depended on understanding forces far greater than oneself. Arindor had been saved from destruction, yes, but the price had been high and the lesson clear. Humans were not like anyone the Arindorians had known. They were more powerful, more unpredictable, and entirely indifferent to the fragile hopes of small worlds. And so, the people of Arendor prepared for the days ahead, knowing that their lives had changed forever. The humans had arrived, and with them, a new reality had come. It was not one of mercy or kindness. It was a reality where survival depended on courage, cunning, and the understanding that some forces in the galaxy cared for nothing but their own goals. The Xiphons were gone, but the humans remained, and that was a power no one on Arendor could challenge. Yet, the morning after the humans' arrival was quiet. Fires from the previous battle still smoked across the cities, but a thin light of hope and fear touched the streets. The people of Arendor were alive, but their world had changed forever. They moved cautiously, unsure if the humans would strike again or if the Xiphons would return. Liam Harper walked through the ruins with Maya Wells. They had spent the night helping the survivors and organizing what little remained of the city. "We survived," Liam said quietly, looking at a collapsed building. "But I don't feel safe. Not really." Maya nodded. "We learned something important," she said. "Humans are not saviors in the way we thought. They are powerful, unstoppable. They fight to finish the job, and everything else is secondary. We have to be ready, even if we don't know what comes next."
Ruth Dane moved through the streets as well, helping organize food and water supplies.
She spoke to the people, trying to calm their fears. "We are alive," she said softly. "That is what matters. We have survived the Xiphons. Now we must survive ourselves. We must learn, we must rebuild, and we must prepare." The humans remained in orbit, observing silently. Captain Alex Monroe had given strict orders. No interference beyond necessary observation. Humans did not care about the lives they had touched. They had completed their mission. To them, Arendor was a planet they had secured, nothing more. Liam and Maya led a group to the remains of a warehouse. There they found supplies left by the humans: metal, food rations, and strange equipment. Maya examined the technology, trying to understand it. "This is beyond anything we know," she said. "But we can try. Maybe it can help us survive better. Maybe it can help us protect ourselves next time." Liam nodded. "We have to learn quickly. Humans will not teach us. They will leave us to figure it out ourselves." In the city streets, small groups of survivors began to rebuild what they could. Some cleaned rubble, some tried to restore water and power, and some cared for the injured. Every step was slow, but every small victory gave them a bit of hope. The people of Arendor were strong, even if they had been weak before. The humans had shown them the power of strength, and now they understood that survival depended on action, not on hope alone. Ruth Dane gathered a small group of leaders in a damaged building. "We must think carefully," she said. "The humans are gone in our control, but they are not gone from our world. They have left their mark. We must use what we have learned. We must be ready if they return, or if something else comes." Liam listened quietly. He could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "We can use their technology," he said. "We can build defenses. We can prepare. We cannot rely on them again. We have to be the ones in charge of our survival."
Maya added, "And we must teach the people. Everyone must know that humans are not saviors."
"They are powerful, yes, but indifferent. We survive because we learn, because we act, because we are strong enough to make our own choices." Days passed. The survivors worked tirelessly. Liam, Maya, and Ruth organized teams to clear rubble, build temporary shelters, and train volunteers in basic defense. The humans continued to hover in orbit, scanning silently, but they did not intervene. Their presence was a constant reminder of power, of what strength could accomplish, and of what the people of Arendor had survived. In one district, Liam found a group of children playing near a small fire. They had lost families in the attacks, but they laughed cautiously, trying to find some normalcy in a broken world. "Be careful," Liam said, kneeling beside them. "The humans watch. We must survive." One evening, Liam and Maya stood on a rooftop, looking at the stars. The human ships were small lights far above, distant and untouchable. "We survived the Xiphons," Liam said. "We survived the humans. And we are still here. That is Something. Maya nodded. Yes, something important.
We have learned that power is not always fair.
That hope is not always enough, but we are alive.
And we can grow. We can become stronger.
We can prepare for the future. Ruth Dane joined them, her face calm but determined. We have survived. We have seen what true power looks like, and we have learned our place in this galaxy. Not as victims, not as children waiting for help, but as beings who must take our own survival into our hands. That is the lesson the humans have left us. Months passed and Arendor slowly rebuilt. New shelters replaced old ruins. Trainings followed in energy from daytime. Training centers were built to teach self-defense and survival skills. People began to move with confidence, no longer relying on hope alone. The humans had shown them power, but Arendor's people had learned strength. Liam trained new recruits every day, teaching them what he had learned from observing the humans.
Strength is not just weapons, he told them.
It is thinking ahead. It is planning. It is surviving when everything seems lost. That is how humans fight. That is what we must learn. Maya worked in the labs, experimenting with the technology the humans had left behind. She documented every success and failure, teaching others what she had learned. We do not need to copy them, she said. We learn from them. We take what we can use. And we grow stronger in our own way. Ruth Dane continued to lead, guiding the people of Arendor with a careful balance of wisdom and strength. She reminded them of the humans' power, but also of their own. They fought and left, she said, but we remain. That is our power. That is our strength. We survive because we act, because we learn, because we do not rely on anyone else. The humans eventually left orbit, moving silently across the stars. Their ships disappeared into the distance, leaving Arendor in peace, but not as it had been. The people of Arendor now understood the vastness of power in the galaxy. They understood that hope alone could not save them. Only knowledge, action, and strength could ensure their survival. Liam and Maya stood on a high hill overlooking the city they had helped rebuild. Children played carefully in the streets. Families worked together to repair homes. Volunteers trained diligently. The people of Arendor were still fragile, but they were no longer helpless. We have survived, Liam said quietly, and we will survive again, no matter what comes next.
Maya smiled faintly.
Yes, humans showed us the truth.
Power exists, and it is not always kind. But we can be strong too. That is the lesson. That is our future. Ruth Dane looked at the horizon, where the sun rose over a city that had seen fire, death, and fear, but now also courage and hope born of strength. We are alive, she said softly. We are ready, and no matter what the galaxy brings, we will face it. Not as victims, but as a people who have learned to survive, to fight, and to endure. And so Arendor looked to the stars, no longer with blind hope, but with understanding, preparation, and quiet determination. Humans had arrived, and they had changed everything. But the people of Arendor had also changed. They were no longer just survivors. They were a people who had learned from power, who had seen the galaxy's strength, and who would never be helpless again. The humans were gone, but their shadow remained. And under that shadow, Arendor began to grow stronger, preparing for the future with courage, intelligence, and the knowledge that the galaxy was vast, and that they now had the wisdom to face it.
And to survive, we must always be aware. One of the children looked up at him. Why did they come?
Why did they save us but also hurt us? Liam hesitated. Because they are not like us, he said finally. They have their own rules. They do not see our pain the way we do. They fight to finish their job, and we are small in comparison. But that does not mean we cannot be strong too. That is what you must remember. Maya walked beside Liam, speaking softly. They are humans, she said, but they are not our friends. They are forces we cannot control. We learn from them. We survive with what they left us. and we build our future ourselves. Ruth Dane visited the families who were slowly rebuilding their homes. She spoke to the people about hope, but a different kind of hope. Hope that was born of strength and action, not trust in outsiders. "We have survived the Xiphons," she said. "We have seen the humans. And we know now that our safety depends on ourselves. If we survive, it will be because we are ready. Because we are strong. Because we do not wait for someone else to save us." The weeks passed. Liam, Maya, and Ruth worked tirelessly to train volunteers in defense techniques, basic engineering, and survival skills. They experimented with the technology left behind by the humans, slowly learning how to use it. It was difficult and dangerous, but every success made them stronger, more confident. They began to understand what it meant to face power greater than themselves and still survive. From orbit, human ships continued to observe. Monroe, Clark, and Blake monitored the planet silently. They made notes, watched for any unusual activity, and recorded the progress of the people of Arendor. To them, it was not cruelty. It was not friendship. It was a measure of survival and adaptation. The humans had shown the people of Arendor power, and now it was up to them to grow stronger in their own way.